Hi, this is Mrs. Ludala, and tonight your homework assignment for your class is to look through a packet of 10 pages. Now remember that you are not required to read all 10 pages, but it includes a table of contents and a glossary and two articles, one of which is objective news reporting and the other which is not. And we're going to ask you to answer some questions about that packet. At the end of the packet, you'll find some author information about both authors of the articles, and at the end you will see a works cited. So it's a really nice comprehensive way for you to get a glimpse of what the articles are, who wrote them, how to cite them, and the glossary will really kind of guide you through the work that we're going to do today. So what you're going to see next is a video. I'm going to kind of go through the process of what it looks like to sort of pull an article apart as you skim through it to try to understand a little bit more about its purpose and the author's intent. And then tomorrow when you come into class, you will have a 10-question quiz about this exercise. So one of the things I'm going to show you tonight is how to distinguish objective from subjective journalism. And I'm only going to choose two articles. My temptation is to show you dozens of articles, but something tells me you wouldn't be too excited about that prospect. So right now what I'm looking at is an article. This is actually, it's called "The Ire at Madoff Swings Toward the Referee," and it's by a guy named Joe Nocera. And it's in the New York Times, and it's from July 2009. All right, so we're going to scroll past the abstract, that's the summary. We're going to look at the full text, and we're going to start reading this together. And I mean, obviously I'm not going to read the entire article out loud, but as I flip through here, and really one of the things you need to do is learn how to skim. This is a skill, and I'm not going to read every single word of every single article. I mean, I did in this instance, but right now, where it says, you can say, as I have previously, that's something that's going to give me an indication that I want to pay attention to, because it's first person, it's very casual, it's conversational. It says that, oh yeah, we know the old story, but clearly I'm going to introduce something new. So that's one of the things we're going to look for. As we move down the text, I thought this parenthetical statement was a little bit sarcastic, which again sort of removes it from the professional tone that you would expect from an objective news reporting. So, you know, if it also implies opinion, because clearly he's saying, well, not only do I disagree, it's like, of course I don't agree. So that's something else. To claw back money. Try to picture that, like literally they're reaching in and going back and taking the money. That's a very active word, not necessarily the word that you would find in objective journalism, the kind that is really just straight up news reporting. It tends to be too imbued with drama. What I also heard that night is an interesting thing. What that's telling us is, if we read through the entire article, but remember we're skimming here, he's really talking about his testimony where he was sitting in a room with the victims of Bernie Madoff, and he's trying to convey what he saw. So he was a witness to what was happening, which is generally very different from news reporting. Even though the reporters are very often there, they very seldom talk about their presence in the room or in that space or in the event in the first person. They talk about it in the third person, and they consult a wide array of sources in order to do that. And then when he says it's not remotely justified, he's saying, well, something might be understandable, it's not remotely justified. What's he stating? He's saying, well, I totally don't agree with that. Not even at all. Even though it's understandable, I totally don't agree. And that is completely his own opinion. And then there's just some casual ways of phrasing your conversation. I'm talking about the Madoff investor. So again, it's first person, I'm talking about, that's very conversational, very casual, something to keep an eye out for. I can't see how anything else is fair. Not only is it his opinion, but he's also discounting all others. So that's an interesting statement. So he's not only, again, not only is he stating his opinion, he's also saying it's insane to think otherwise. Here at the end, he concludes on his last sentence, or second to last sentence, saying, "You know what they say." And if that isn't an indicator that it's personal, he's reaching out to the audience. This is like you and me, we're talking here. You know what they say. That's pretty low-key and casual, and I can't imagine any circumstances in which that would be in an objective news reporting article. Our next article is by Joanna Chung, and she was at the time the New York correspondent for the Financial Times of London. Just a couple of things that I found were really important to underscore the kind of article that this is. You'll notice that within the first two sentences, the author covers the who, what, why, where, when of this story. And that is typical indicator that this is objective news reporting, that they're going to give you the facts, they're going to go out and consult a wide array of sources, but they're going to collect all that information and they're going to condense all of it, as much as possible, into the first few sentences of this article. There are a couple other clues that indicate that this is objective news reporting. One is every time she introduces a new person, she says the full name. Every time she subsequently mentions that person, it's in fairly official terms. It's Mr. Madoff. Ira Sorkin, who's Mr. Madoff's lawyer, but then she says Mr. Sorkin after that. And then she introduces the Mark Litt, the U.S. Assistant U.S. Attorney, and then later she calls him Mr. Litt. So a very consistent pattern like that really kind of removes the author from the situation and makes it a lot more formal. She uses 6 quotes, so clearly she's gone and consulted a number of sources, so that's definitely going to that speaks to, you know, this isn't something she's just made up out of her head. This isn't a blog post. This isn't a column. This is something that she's being charged to really kind of invent. Her job is to go out and consult a variety of sources and pull that all in and consolidate it into an article and compile that information. So the frequency of quotations and the variety of sources that she consulted is definitely something to consider. There's another thing that I find unique to journalism, and I'm not sure what the rules are because I'm not a journalism specialist, but I do find that this is a fairly consistent pattern in straight-up news reporting. Here's the quote. Our review is to record, our review of the record confirms that the district court's findings were sufficient under the circumstances of this case, comma, the 3 judges of the U.S. Appeals Court for the circuit wrote in their decision yesterday. It's very concise, but it really kind of gives you the quote up front and it says who said it. So that's a fairly typical pattern that I have seen in journalism that I don't see as commonly in other kinds of writing. So that too is a clue that it is objective journalism. Okay. So that gives you a summary. I would strongly encourage you to look over the packet, particularly the glossary, because there will be a couple of questions on the quiz tomorrow from that glossary. And good luck, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.